Liberty Nation. Truth is making a comeback.
Hello and welcome to Liberty Nation's LNTV. I'm your host, Mark Angelides, and I'm joined by the amazing legal mind that is Mr. Scott D. Cosenza to talk about the latest news on Judge Brett Kavanaugh. Thanks for joining us, Scott.
Cheers, Mark.
So, Dianne Feinstein, she certainly caused an uproar with her discovered allegations against Kavanaugh. When the judge was first nominated, I remember talking to the Liberty Nation team about how long it would be before Gloria Allred stepped forward with some allegations of a sexual nature. So I got the messenger wrong. But Scott, what's the overall situation here? Is this just salacious spin?
Presumably it is, given the way that it was handled, given the Democrats' desperate attempt to do anything to keep Kavanaugh, who we have every reason to believe will be an effective and conservative jurist, on the court, hence their desperation. So the way this was handled reeks of desperation and not a genuine attempt to discover some wrongdoing or character flaw, but simply a move to either scuttle the nomination or sufficiently delay it past the midterm elections that they may be able to then block it.
Yeah, the delaying it past the elections would give the Democrats a sort of a persona of strength, wouldn't it? It makes it look like they're actually capable of achieving something.
Well, not only that, Mark, it may very well actually kill the nominee. So if the universe of people who can be convinced that a vote for Kavanaugh means a vote for return to slavery or an end to Roe v. Wade or some of the many things that have been kind of laid on that, some practical and some fantastic, well, then the motivated voter base will be unbelievable. And call me a cynic, but some of those politicians aren't doing so because they want to see Kavanaugh on the court, but because they want that voter wave to help buoy their own re-election chances. So it's all good for them in terms of bad news for Kavanaugh, whether it's true or false.
Okay, I mean, realistically here, do you think it will delay the nomination? Just your opinion.
Not based on what we have already. If we have a sympathetic person who stands up in front of cameras and said that Kavanaugh did something horrible to me, then we may. But given this just letter, innuendo, whiff of an accusation, seems like the answer is no. Perhaps just me being hopeful, but that's my take right now.
Okay, so Feinstein herself, she's received some pushback, hasn't she, from fellow Democrats? Not for releasing this information, but for sitting on it for such a long time. Do you want to give us your opinion on that?
Well, senators get lots of letters, and I imagine the senator from California, who's the minority ranking member on the Judiciary Committee, gets lots of letters concerning a Supreme Court appointment that probably say all sorts of things. So I don't know how she exactly handled it. We do know for sure, though, that there have been many leaks, and that she called the New York Times to get them to publish this story about the ominous referred for federal investigation, as if that's somehow, I could, see somebody cutting down a tree in my backyard and say, oh, I'm going to call the FBI. I've then referred the matter to federal authorities for investigation. Well, if those federal authorities don't, it's kind of I hate to say it's a joke, because if it's true or serious, we're talking about, a real, I don't know if attack's the right word, but an incident that was a problem for this woman. She still thinks about it today. That's what we're told to believe. But, Mark, the allegations themselves, the most detailed sort of recitation of them occur in a New Yorker article with Ronan Farrow and Jane Mayer. Now, I know that Ronan Farrow is famous for, of course, being a Farrow and for his Me Too exposures in journalism. I don't know about his veracity. I know that Jane Mayer is not somebody that you can trust to tell you that it's raining outside and look out and see that it's raining outside. She is a woman with an agenda. She is a hard left ideologue and activist, and she has no problem steamrolling over the truth if it will help her side. And she also happens to be the author of a book with former New York Times editor Jill Abramson on Anita Hill. So she's quite read into exactly right. I see your face there, and yeah, that's the right, the eye roll. So I don't think we can take them at face value. So in terms of analysis of how did Feinstein handle this, or we really have to wait and see if we ever can find out what the facts are. And of course, Mark, that's what they don't want. In other words, that Dianne Feinstein could have released this letter. She could have talked about what happened.
Yes.
The woman who we're told made allegations against Kavanaugh could have posted a YouTube video, could have written an essay for any publication in the world, would have loved the clicks to have posted it, I'm sure, alleging impropriety on Kavanaugh's part. She didn't do that. She sent it to a partisan hack senator who is comfortable lying in order to get a judge not on the court. And so...
yeah. One of my acquaintances said that the reason it didn't go through straight away was she had to get approval from Beijing first by her driver before she could actually release it.
What story is that? I didn't see any story about that, Mark. What do you mean? What are you talking about?
Oddly enough, that hasn't been in the popular press quite recently. The fact that she had a Chinese spy working for her for the last 20 years, whilst she got vastly enriched via the Chinese government.
You know, not only that, Mark.
You wouldn't have heard much about it.
Here's a detail that you probably don't know. There's a man called John C. Dvorak, who's a journalist in California, and he has talked more than once on his podcast, the No Agenda Show, about Dianne Feinstein's inappropriate sexual behavior when she was on, not a U.S. senator, like 30, 40 years ago when they worked together. So... her hands aren't exactly clean in this matter either.
I mean, in fact, that does bring me on to my next question. A much broader issue about accusations of sexual misconduct or impropriety. To me, it seems like they're set to be the new tactical political warfare weapon. It was used with incredible fatality and accuracy against... I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He was the judge. The Alabama judge, Roy Moore.
Yes, Judge
Now,
Moore.
what I have noticed, I don't want to make any judgments on whether he was or was not guilty here, but it does appear that for the very, very serious crimes that he was accused of, all sort of disappeared as soon as he wasn't about to be elected. And interest just sort of dropped in it. I'm wondering if this isn't
it's funny you say that. One question I would have for Kamala Harris and for Dianne Feinstein is you are on the Judiciary Committee of the U.S. Senate, and oversight of the judiciary is your primary responsibility. This man has been in the second highest court in the nation for over a decade. What have you done about it? This monster, right? I mean, where was their due diligence for one step below the Supreme Court? If it's true that he is what they say he is, then they themselves reveal themselves incapable of oversight and monitoring. And they should step down from that committee at least, if not their positions as senators, if they've allowed this monster to sit on that court for 12 years plus. Yeah,
and of course they appear to be doing nothing about it now either.
Mm-hmm.
In the aftermath of it. So my question, by their very nature, these kind of things, that they're incredibly difficult to prove, I'm sure, especially with them being A, historical, and B, likely committed behind closed doors due to the nature of what they are. So what is the defense against this kind of accusation?
I don't know that you could mount a defense. And the other thing, too, is it a disqualifying event? Meaning, if a 16-year-old Brett Kavanaugh kisses a girl at a drunken house party in Bethesda, Maryland, when they're both teenagers, and she did not want him to kiss her, and yet he did it anyway, does that mean that 50 years later he doesn't get to be a Supreme Court judge? Not 50 years later, 35 years later, whatever, that he doesn't get to be a Supreme Court judge? Is that where we are with the Me Too thing, that if you've ever done something like that, is that? I mean, it seems like what we're saying is that if you wait in the alley behind a liquor store and hold a gun to a woman's head while you rape her, that is the same as a 16-year-old inappropriately kissing. And what about the unwanted kisses that girls make against guys? Guess what? If that's the power that an unwanted kiss has, I'm going to suggest to you that the next Supreme Court justice, no matter what their sex, is going to have a lot of people lining up from the other side if that's a sufficient deadly torpedo to their nomination. So
that in fact ties in. Especially, you mentioned the Me Too movement. So, like from a legal perspective, there were certain campus regulations put in place under President Obama that encouraged the campus authorities, the university authorities, to treat every accusation of sexual impropriety as real. And now we have that in the UK as well, where all victims of any sexual crime are to be believed, and they're to operate with investigations, including the police, to operate with investigations under the assumption that this is a real accusation. It's a tricky tightrope to walk, of course, but what's the weight of evidence actually required
well, let me
to
just say
extricate
this.
from this?
So just to untangle that for a second, it's not that they treat them as real accusations, which is what I think you said. I think you meant to say that they treat them as true, automatically true, with no skepticism. Yes. And that is the problem. Yes. Not that victim survivors shouldn't be believed. They should be seen to and attended to, and their charges should be investigated, because we can't have accusations equal guilt. And it's funny, one of the provisions that the Trump-DeVos Department of Justice and Department of Education have put now back into their guidance for universities is what's referred to in the Constitution as the Confrontation Clause, which is to say that you have the right to see the evidence presented against you. So that's an important feature that's been added back. Now, what is the standard of evidence for what? A character assassination? For an improper kissing charge from 1982? There is no, it was a juvenile, to the extent that it happened at all, it was a juvenile court matter that would have been a nothing thing then. I mean, nothing, unfortunately, meaning I don't think the police would have arrested Judge Kavanaugh if a woman said that he kissed her inappropriately as a 16-year-old. They just would have told him to buzz off, I'm guessing. So for the legal standard, that's it. But it was an assault that was alleged, to be clear. This woman, through the filter of the untrustworthy New Yorker article, has alleged that Judge Kavanaugh, when he was a teenager, physically assaulted her, that she was then able to escape from. So there was no rape or anything like that. She said he put her hand over her mouth and turned up some music, and then she escaped. That's what the New Yorkers reported. So we'll have to see if the facts uncover anything else. But in the meantime, it's a character assassination, and some of those bullets certainly have landed. We're now talking about Judge Kavanaugh and sexual assault in the same breath for quite a bit here.
Yeah, he joins a lofty crew of people who have had those words associated with their name in recent years.
Yeah.
Scott, thank you so much for taking the time to discuss this. Very much appreciated.
Thank you, Mark.
And thanks to you at home for watching and taking part. We would love to know your thoughts on this, especially if you have a different opinion. You can comment down below if you like. For more articles, podcasts, radio shows, and TV, you can even subscribe to our channel or just head over to libertynation.com. You can download our app both on Apple and Android. So until next time, take care of yourselves and be safe.
Visit us at libertynation.com.